Welcome to Tom Talks. Join me once a week right here on Tom Boley YouTube channel. We're going to break down all the latest and greatest walleye fishing tips, walleye fishing tricks, the absolute location where these fish are right now, and all the practical relevant information you want and need. Hooked up. And look at that, just gone. For all the information you want and need, stay tuned right here once a week, Tom Talks. What is going on, guys? Today we are back with another Tom Talks. It is very late at night right now. I am incredibly exhausted from fishing a long week and a long day today. So if I don't have my normal energy, I apologize for that. But we're gonna get right into it. If you guys, this is your first time watching one of these Tom Talks, it's basically a video I kind of do once a week or once every once in a while where I kind of break down some of the stuff we've done in recent videos, maybe how the bite is, kind of where the bite is going. And this week, we really mixed it up, kind of in the last probably 10 days or so, jumping all over from lake trout and Lake Superior to a lot of northern Wisconsin muskie stuff to some northern Wisconsin and northern Minnesota walleye stuff. So we've kind of been all across the board as far as basically bites happening in the Northwoods, which is good because that's my style of fishing. I know most of the time these things are like exclusively walleye, but we're going to cover a little bit of everything and kind of go over a lot of the commonly asked questions that you guys have on some of the specifics on a lot of these different things. So we're going to get right into it. We'll start with walleyes, and I filmed some stuff on Mille Lacs. It was probably about a week and a half ago now, maybe. I don't know. I've totally lost track of days, but that's a good thing normally. And Mille Lacs is obviously a phenomenal walleye destination. I love fishing there, and the middle of summer is a time where I have absolutely zero idea or experience as far as what was probably going on that lake. And it's something that happens relatively often on a lot of lakes. Not often does it happen on a lot of lakes that are so structure rich as Mille Lacs is, right? So basically what was happening is I could find fish like on deep rock or deep gravel, like if you had like a big gravel or rock the spot that had like a ton of character, you know, in 20, I'd say probably 20 to like 28 feet, right before it kind of tapered out and got to like the soft bottom. I could find some fish on those spots, but the big thing is, and this is relevant kind of no matter where you are, is a lot of times you do this enough and you can tell when you're doing what I call picking up the scraps, right? You're catching some fish, right? But it's not like the pattern where you go over to this spot that's similar and there's a lot of fish there, then you go to the next spot and there's a lot of fish there, and you can kind of run that all day. This was not the kind of pattern that I was on. And I was actually there for a day and a half, and the first day it was like a half day I was there, and this is basically what I was doing. And like I said, I was catching fish doing this. I was catching them lindy rigging and basically structure fishing, just grade A structure fishing stuff, right? Mark fish on a quick rock break with some big boulders, pitch back to them, catch them, right, with a lot of live bait presentation stuff. And I could tell it wasn't really the thing. And the thing that was happening to me the most out there is that I knew the mud flats. I know about the mud flats. I obviously spent a lot of time out there ice fishing mud flats, and I kind of knew that was probably the midsummer deal. I just didn't do it on day one, just to kind of try a couple of different things, right? I also didn't have a lot of time, and I knew that was going to be a large time commitment to find fish type of deal, right? Just because it's such a big, expansive body of water and the structure is very large. Well, so day two, basically what it is, I went out to the mud flats, and if you fish Mille Lacs a lot, none of this is going to be any surprise to you, but being in my first time was there, was what I learned was always the important part when you go somewhere new, is that there just wasn't fish like on the mud flats. And basically what you call, or I call mud flats, are like the soft bottom or sand humps out there, right? And most of the time they top out like 22, 23, 24, and they'll kind of break out to like 30 feet or 31 feet, then it'll kind of gradually go down into kind of that mid 30 depth range. And there just wasn't fish on those. I'm assuming if you go there in like late June through July, there's probably a lot of fish on those, but in this dead, kind of the dog days of summer, this August to probably, I would say, mid-September time frame is kind of what my guess would be, is that these fish are pretty much in the basin. They're pretty much in no man's land. So once I kind of figured that out, that was the big game changer for me, and I started basically trolling cranks on lead core and catching fish out there, which was very rewarding because that's something I don't have a lot of confidence doing. I don't do it a lot, and it was a total curveball to me. I had no idea going in that that was going to be what was going to happen. Doing some research on it now, it's not an uncommon thing. In fact, the bite is probably just getting better and better, so I kind of want to go back and do it again now, because it's super fun, and you guys always have a ton of questions on lead core, so we'll kind of save a few of those questions for a future video. But this whole fish coming off of structure, even deep structure, and relating to just open basin is something super common. Now, the lakes that I fish a ton and have just a million hours of experience on, the reason that doesn't happen in those lakes, or it happens in a different situation though. Mille Lacs is a lake that's like maxes out like just at 40 feet of water. So these fish can always almost be somewhat bottom oriented, right? I do the same thing in a lot of lakes up here, except when those fish are down 27, it might be over 50 or 60 or 70, 80 feet of water, right? So I'm fishing for fish that are very high in a very deep amount of water, right? Well, in Mille Lacs, they're still 27, 28 feet down, but they're just in like 35 feet of water. So yeah, it was a little bit different, and I was not used to fishing that way. And the big thing is in Wisconsin, where I do a ton of open water trolling, and I'm super comfortable open water trolling on a new lake, is that you can run 3 lines, right? So it's technically quicker and easier to get on fish. Now, I will say this, overall, lakes I have fished in northern Minnesota seem much healthier as far as numbers of quality walleyes go versus lakes that I fish in Wisconsin. And you can look up a lot of surveys to find densities and stuff like that, but most of the lakes I'm on have basically a 1 adult walleye per acre, which I believe is like a 15-inch fish. It's somewhere ballpark right in there, I want to say. 2 like a just under 3 adult walleyes per acre, right? Which those are kind of like the healthier lakes in my area. Now you can go other places and that number is much higher. You can go some places and it's lower. But generally, if you kind of stick in that 1, 2, 3 range, you can be willing to bet that there's a lot of quality fish in that system. Because when you start getting like to that number that's like 5 adult walleyes per acre, 6, a lot of times what happens is that you're fishing for like a lot of 14 to 17-inch fish. So yeah, I guess that's just a little tidbit of information that I see, right? But yeah, trolling 1 line on Mille Lacs or in Minnesota, I was not comfortable doing that, and I was very happy with the success, even though it wasn't like record-breaking stuff. Absolutely not in any means, but that was exciting for me. It's always rewarding to get on a new pattern, fish it, and be successful doing that, right? And I say it a lot, but the quickest way to get on open water fish is get around a lot of structure that you know those fish probably use. A lot of that deep structure and that, those deep flats, that 20 to like 30 foot stuff, and then just go out adjacent to it, out over deep water, right? And a lot of times you're gonna see those fish push out to that stuff, especially this time of year. And that's kind of where we can go from here, right? Now, obviously, on some lakes, is there gonna be a lot of fish on structure? Absolutely. And we filmed a thing with the Acme Hyper Rattle this week. Do I even have one tied up here? I gotta look at my rod rack. I do. But this is obviously just an absolute killer way to fish. And I don't like doing just video after video after video on that lure, just because it gets kind of repetitive. So I like mixing it up and obviously doing a lot of different things. But this is definitely my absolute favorite way to catch walleyes on the Acme Hyper Rattle from now really until turnover. And it's super effective for fishing a lot of these deep water fish that are structure relating, right? This is definitely a structure fishing bait for the most part. Can you sharpshoot suspended fish? Yeah. Is that a really good pattern to fish? There's probably better ways to catch that fish if you're fishing for suspended fish, right? Like trolling, for example. But if fish are relating to structure, absolutely killer bait. We filmed some on that this week. If you're trying to get your hands on some of these, I know a lot of places are sold out, but keep looking. I've heard multiple people message me that they found some and bought some, so there is still some out there. And this is the one that's like 28 grams for all you guys that always ask about that kind of stuff. This is the biggest size they make in that. So Acme Hyper Rattle. This is not the Acme Hyper Glide. That is a very light bait that has expandable wings, probably and mostly an ice fishing lure. This is the Acme Hyper Rattle, and it is absolutely deadly. Now, talking about all this stuff we're talking about in walleye fishing, let's talk about where the bite is and where the bite's going. Well, you just kind of got a pretty good rundown on where the bite is, right? This bite's happening. There's some fish in open water. There's quite a few fish in open water, depending on what lake you're on, which is a pretty normal pattern for late August, mid-August to really kind of that post-Labor Day, I would say. And the other spot there's a lot of fish is there's a lot of fish sitting on a lot of this deeper rock or deeper flats and things of that nature, right? Kind of depending on what lake you're on, one of those patterns is obviously probably going to be better than the other one. And that's kind of the deal. So basically my 1-2 punch right now is either this or it's trolling open water. or trolling big flats that fish are on, right? And I'm trolling two things. Normally I'm either trolling really deep crankbaits on lead core, or just deep diving crankbaits in general, Berkeley flicker minnows, your deeper reef runners, stuff like that. And or I'm trolling bottom balancers or snap weights to spinner rigs with crawlers on it right now. That's kind of the 1-2 punch. Pretty much a lot of places you're gonna go in walleye country right now. Yeah, so you got that deep structure bite, and kind of the ideal depths I'm looking for is kind of depending on what lake you're on, but I would say that those upper 20s, those mid to upper 20s right now is a very productive depth range on a lot of walleye locations. And this bite was really gonna stay pretty similar really from now into like the second, third week in September, depending on how warm it stays. Now, you start getting a shallow water creep of those fish when that water temp starts dropping. And we'll talk about that kind of as it happens, but basically the closer to turnover it gets, the lower those water temps get, you will see a lot of fish return to shallower structure, and we'll definitely be showcasing obviously a whole bunch of that. But for the foreseeable future, this is kind of the pattern that I'm running a lot, right? And moving on, what are we talking about next? What else did we film this week? Well, we filmed some musky stuff. So I used to musky fish pretty much every single day for years, probably like I don't even know, probably like 4 or 5 years, which I guess is not an incredibly long time. But anyways, I used to spend way more time doing that than I did fishing for anything else open water. And since then, my musky arsenal has dwindled, and my amount of time spent musky fishing has gotten very short. But I still do enjoy it. Why don't I do it as much as I used to? I don't know. I think I enjoy catching fish and creating patterns and stuff like that more than I enjoy you know, spending 3 days on a lake to develop a pattern that catches me 2 muskies. I don't really know. But obviously musky fishing is a ton of fun, and I really enjoy musky fishing. But what were we basically doing this week? Well, we're kind of fishing. It's kind of interesting the last, I guess, couple weeks I've been musky fishing, in that it seems like fish are almost where they would be in that September time frame. And what I mean by that is, you know, we kind of talked about the shallow water creep for walleye fishing, and it really happens hardcore in musky fishing when you start seeing water temps that are in the low 70s to upper 60s, and you see just a massive push. And a lot of those big muskies that are sitting out over basin or relating to deeper structure throughout the summer months, you see them just slam back up into shallow water stuff, whether that's rocks or northern Wisconsin. One of the most killer things you can do is fish like thick milfoil or like really thick junk weeds up shallow. And I don't really know why that is, if that stuff holds a little more heat or what the deal is, but those fish definitely jam pack into some of that shallow stuff. And we fished a couple of different lakes where I was thinking like, all right, this is probably gonna be, we're fishing off the edge pattern, you know, we're putting the boat in 15 and we're casting to 10 or 12 and we're working the outside edge. And what we found was that there's actually a lot of fish up in the stuff, like up, you know, near the tops of these things, or in a lot of that shallow junk stuff already. And we have water temps that are like 74, 73, 72, kind of depending on where you are. And we're having cool nights. So I think the water, even though the days are getting warm, I think overall the water temp is relatively low for this time of year. And I think and a lot of guys I know are having success in my area musky fishing right now. And I think a lot of these fish are kind of, you know, almost ready to kind of push right up to the top, or they're very close to a lot of this stuff. And really this pattern of this whole shallow water fishing thing is only going to get better and better and better kind of in the next, well, really until the turnover, really. Late August and through the month of September is one of my favorite musky times because it's super fun fishing. It's just seek and destroy big shallow water structure, right? And that's super fun. You know, it's generally like your topwater stuff, your bucktail stuff, anything you can aggressively fish up shallow. And kind of obviously, it's no secret, I don't even know where my musky rods are right now, if they're in my rod locker or in the garage somewhere here. But it's a lot of blades that we're catching fish on, and I was snapping a lot of plastic around and catching fish too. And that's a great 1-2 punch. It's obviously no secret that those things work. The plastic thing, how aggressive I like to fish it, is an absolute killer. If you have not tried fishing that way, if you look at big rubber baits as only a deep water tool, you're definitely missing out on one of the most productive ways to catch fish up shallow. And that's something that works on fish that are biting fish that are neutral, and fish that are negative. Is it a lot of work? Absolutely. Do you spend a lot of time picking weeds up? Absolutely. But it's absolutely a killer way to fish. And some things that you can do to help you are obviously go to a really long rod, a really stiff rod, a fast reel, and try to fish something like a Muskie Innovation Shallow Dog, right? The lighter version. Or a Lake X Toad, something that has more hang time, or a Medusa with the 3 tails so it hangs a little bit better, right? It's not just like going straight down into that junk. When you snap those baits, they kind of hang up. And that's kind of what you're looking for, and it definitely makes fishing that kind of stuff a lot easier. So yeah, I mean, I guess that's kind of what we're seeing on the muskie front. You're probably going to see a lot more of this kind of stuff from us probably the next month here. We're going to keep obviously doing more muskie stuff. One bizarre part about my channel, I don't know if you guys realize this or not, but I always joke about it to people who are fishing with me or guys that I talk about this, is that my walleye videos generally do very well. And I'm sure most of you following this channel and watching this right now are walleye guys. And then muskie videos are kind of like, you know, they do all right. And then there's like the lake trout videos that it's like, boom, like nobody watches these lake trout videos. And if I had to fish for, you know, one of the, you know, my favorite fishing trips normally every year are going out and trying to catch big lake trout on Lake Superior, and sometimes we are successful. But it's a ton of fun, so we'll kind of move into that. We get a lot of questions on stuff, I think probably because it's very foreign to a lot of people. A lot of people don't have experience doing it. A lot of people feel like their boat's too small to do this kind of stuff. And obviously the whole safety thing of it, yeah, you got to be safe. I double, quadruple, triple check the wind every single time I go, and the weather. And there's one app, of course my phone's dead now because it's like midnight right now, but there's one app I use, it's called Windy. If you just try to look it up, it'll be I'll kind of throw a screenshot of what it looks like right here. I am not affiliated with this at all, but it's generally, it seems to be one of the most accurate wind calculators, and you can kind of type in a location, and for the most part it's going to come up and it gives you like a few different wind readings. And yeah, that's what I go by, and I live and die by looking at that and looking at the Weather Channel and double, triple, quadruple checking the wind before I make these big runs out to fish. And lake trout fishing, as far as, you know, where do you do it and stuff like that, there's not really like a right or a wrong answer. You know, these fish can really be anywhere. They're definitely very nomadic. You know, some of the popular things to fish are big offshore reefs, and you know, reefs that top out in that 70 to like 130 feet of water, right? Or even deeper sometimes, or even shallower some other times, like in the fall or spring. But for the most part, that's what we look for a lot. The other thing you can do is like, you know, if you're in like the Duluth end or something, you know, you're looking for very steep breaks or suspended fish a lot of times, or like deep channels like in the Apostles, things of that nature, you know, very steep and deep channel edges and things like that. So these fish can suspend, they can be on structure. I mean, they are so nomadic that really covering water is kind of the key. And if you do want to get into this, you know, don't be frustrated by going out and feeling you have absolutely no idea what you're doing the first time. That is absolutely 100% how I felt for the first several times I tried to chase lake trout. I had so many different contraptions going on, try to get baits down deep, that it was absolutely the most ridiculous thing I've ever done in my whole life. But yeah, you know, I don't run downriggers either, so don't feel like you have to run downriggers. You definitely can, and there's obviously a use for them. I have not figured out exactly how I want to mount them, if I even want to mount them on my boat, just with the rail system and stuff like that. But there's definitely ways to do it. But if you're going to do it with dipsies, obviously very achievable. There's kind of 2 ways I achieve depth. One is with mag dipsies, and the other way is with long lining lead. You know, I'll go with some of my bigger lead cores, and I'll let out a full core of it, you know, generally 300 feet of it, backed with a lot more braid, and then a mono, which will hold the board, and then snap weights on that. It's kind of a complicated setup, but it's really not that complicated once you get used to it. So yeah, that's kind of the 2 ways I achieve depth for doing that. And yeah, did we not cover anything about lake trout? Basically, the location thing is the deal. Our lake trout are not an incredibly intelligent fish. Kind of what makes, if you're around them and putting baits in their face, and you know, actively switching out baits if you're seeing fish. You know, generally lake trout are very easy to mark if you're around a lot of them. You know, keep switching through baits if you're marking fish. I generally fish a lot more flasher flies than really anything else. Things that look like this right here. This is not a standard flasher fly. This is like I think it's a big moonshine flasher. and then like a double spinning glow rig right there. But things like this are definitely kind of my go-to. And yeah, if you're around them, you should catch them. And also the weird part about lake trout is, or really any kind of these very deep water Great Lakes fish, is that a lot of times you can not be marking fish and catching fish too. I don't know if they're just on the bottom, if they're flying around so fast you don't mark a lot of them. But there's a lot of times you can be catching a lot of fish and not marking a lot of fish as well. So it kind of is a cover water and just, you know, try different stuff type of deal. And the coolest part about lake trout to me is whenever we go lake trout fishing, we always catch quite a few lake trout. So we were out fishing lake trout today, and we didn't film a video. We were stuck in 5-footers for most of the morning, and it took us forever to get to where we wanted to go. The wind was supposed to die down. The wind finally died down once we were way offshore, and we started fishing and we were catching fish, but we just didn't get the big bites that I really wanted to get. And like I said, the reason I go lake trout fishing a lot is to get those like 1 to 3, 4, maybe 5 really big bites. And that's kind of what we're looking for. A lot of those fish that are like, you know, 35 to 40 inches long. You know, that's the ones that we're really looking for. Obviously, the most recent lake trout video we posted, we got lucky and got a couple of those big bites in a day, right? In a short day. So that's kind of the coolest part about lake trout. And you know, if you haven't fished the Great Lakes, Lake Superior is just one of those destinations that is just like, I'm always in love with that place every time I go there. Does the wind suck sometimes? Yes. Can the fishing be hard? Can everything be difficult? Yeah. But Lake Superior is just so gorgeous. It's hard to have a bad day really when you go there. The lake's crystal clear. Just an amazing place to fish. So very cool there. I wish I could answer more or tell you guys more about lake trout. There's just kind of a lot of like stuff that I don't know. I am by no means a lake trout expert. I make probably, I don't know, I'm probably fishing lake trout 50 days a year, and I still feel like I have a ton to learn. So we'll keep doing videos on those, even though hardly any of you guys watch those videos. That's all right though. This is a multi-species channel. We're gonna keep doing that stuff, and fall is obviously a phenomenal time to fish for lake trout, and we're gonna stay on them and probably air a whole bunch of videos this fall on lake trout. But hopefully this was a good video for you guys. It's super late at night. I'm gonna post this tomorrow. Hopefully get on my way with another trip tomorrow morning. Very busy, on the go, go, don't stop. And yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed watching. If you're not yet, please subscribe. I appreciate everybody who brought a t-shirt. Means a lot that you guys want to support this channel. So we're trying to work on some hats and some sweatshirts in the meanwhile while I'm not in a boat. But that's a very limited amount of time, so we'll eventually get there. But I appreciate you guys watching. If you're not yet, please subscribe. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. We'll see you next time.